Right, I thought we'd have a look at some speed, distance, time sort of questions. We're going to start off with the basics, and it's important before you kind of get going. Obviously there's an equation that we can remember, but the problem with that is that people get confused, right? They misremember. I don't like doing that. I like to be able to think, well, what is speed? What do we mean by distance? What do we mean by time? And if we understand the concept, then actually there is nothing really to remember. So if you think about, well, what is speed? Speed is, if we just think about that for a second. So speed is the distance in a unit of time. So let's think about how that's going to help us. Let's imagine that we're traveling at 50 miles per hour. Okay, so we've got speed, we've got distance, and we've got time. So imagine that you're traveling at 50 miles an hour. Okay, so 50 miles per hour. That means in 1 hour you travel 50 miles. So in 2 hours you would travel 100 miles. You're still traveling at 50 miles per hour. And in 3 hours you would go 150 miles. You're still traveling at 50 miles per hour. Okay, that's just your average speed. Obviously, it might not be 50 all the way through, but your average speed is 50 miles per hour. So that's what would happen. So some people like to be able to say this. Okay, all right then, that's fine. If you remember, speed equals distance over time. All right, well that's great. I don't like it. I don't like it because people misremember. And if you just think about what this means, just for a moment, right, if you're not sure, and then you can easily just think, right, okay, so let's look at the second line, for example. Let's imagine I don't know what speed is. 100 divided by 2 gives me 50. If I didn't know what the distance was, 2 times 50 is 100. If I didn't know the time, it would be distance over speed. So we can very quickly just write those things down. Yes, that's great. But let's just do it from here. Let's just think it through. So let's say the distance. Distance is equal to speed times time. Distance equals speed times time. And time equals distance over speed. Distance over speed. You'll probably see a little triangle written down quite often. You might see this again. I'm not particularly keen on this. You may well see this again. If you get something wrong, if you're trying to remember it like that, and if you put something in the wrong order, then you're going to struggle, and you don't really understand what you're doing. So when I get a question like this, if I can't really think it through, if I'm not sure, then I just think of a really basic example. Okay, let's have a look at a couple of examples. Now, one of the issues with doing calculations of speed, distance, time is the fact that time is not decimal. That's where you've got to be careful, right? That's the key bit. So we've got a distance and we've got a time. Now, I haven't actually put down the question here. The question is, what is the average speed? So the average speed. Now, I could give kilometers per minute, but the common sense thing here to do would be kilometers per hour. But this is not hours, right? So I need to convert that to hours, but it must be in decimal. Right? And this is where people make a mistake. It's dead easy to do. Now, you may well be able to recognise 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour. So I can write 0.75 hours. So the calculation that we've got to do is that, remember, speed equals distance over time. So our speed equals, so distance, that's not a problem, that's not changing at all. Sometimes look out for the units, you might be asked for a calculation, you might want it in meters per second possibly, or miles or something, so you might well have to change these units. But normally the distance bit isn't a particular problem, it's the time. The time is the bit where people make mistakes. So all I've got to do is, if I want a calculation, if I want kilometers per hour, I've just got to do that calculation just there. And that's going to give me 320 kilometers per hour. Okay, feel free to use your calculator, right? I've got my calculator at standby here, but obviously you can use your calculator there. All right. Okay, just a couple more quick examples, all right? And then you can get on and do some yourself. So let's have a look at this one. So a man runs for 33 minutes with an average speed of 12 kilometers per hour. What's the question? Well, what have we got? We've got the time and we've got the speed. Okay, so the thing that I can find out is, the question is really, is what is the distance? And as you start to look at more complex questions here, it won't actually always tell you exactly what to do. You should just look at that and just think, well, what's the distance? Especially when you've got questions made up of several parts. Okay, so if I look back, I should be able to think to myself, right, I can go back and look at the previous example. You just think, right, so what was the distance? The distance is equal to speed times time. Speed isn't a problem. Okay, so we're going to have, what was that? That was 12 multiplied by, right, okay, 33 minutes. Now lots of people end up multiplying by 33. Remember, we need to convert that into how much of an hour is that? Well, it's 60 minutes in an hour. So what we need to do is, if I just do 33 divided by 60, okay, and that'll give me the fraction of the hour. And if you work that out, that gives you 0.55. So 0.55. There we go. Multiply that together, and we end up with 6.6 kilometers. All right. Right. Just a couple more quick. Here we go. So a car travels 85 miles at an average speed of 34 miles per hour. Okay, again, I've deliberately left the question off because I want you to be able to look at that and just think, right, what do I need to find out? I've got distance, I've got the speed, I want to know the time. Right? Remember, this is more about training to do the more complex questions. So I can look at this and I can think, I need to know what the time is. What is the time? So I'm going to work that out. Remember, time is equal to distance over speed. So I need to know those things. So this one is actually, well, you could argue it's a little bit easier. We've got 85 divided by 34. And if we do that, that's going to be 2.5 hours. Now, you wouldn't say 2.5 hours. Now, this one's quite a nice one, really, 2.5 hours. You should hopefully be able to recognise that's actually 2.5 hours, isn't it, or 150 minutes. So there's no real calculation to do. But let's imagine that this was actually a slightly awkward number here that we had just worked out. What you've got to do is just multiply it by 60. Okay, 1 hour is 60 minutes. So if you just multiply it by 60, it would just give you, just convert to the number of minutes for you. Right, and that should be dead easy. Right, just the last one. The only reason I'm giving you this question is just because the numbers are just slightly awkward. Right, just like what I just said. So what have we got? We've got speed. Sorry, we've got the distance. Oops. Right, distance, 105 miles. Speed here. Right, so the speed is 39 miles per hour, and we got the distance 105 miles. So time equals. Now remember, the more times you write this down, obviously that's gonna help you. But remember, if you're not sure, then just think about what speed actually means. Yes, you can remember the little triangle to do it. Like I said, I don't really like that, because if you misremember it, then you're stuck. All right, if you're relying upon that. All right, understand the concept, and it's simple. Alright, so let's just pop these things in. So distance is 105, not as I said a second ago. Now I'm going to divide that by 39. Okay, so I don't know what that's going to be, so let's just quickly pop it into my calculator. What have we got? We've got 105, and we're going to divide that by 39. Okay, I've got it as a fraction there. I've got a horrible number. 35 over 13. Let's just write that. Right, okay, we've got 2.6923, and there's a little bit more of a number just there. Okay. Obviously, maybe I should have written it down as a fraction. Okay, I want to get this into minutes. I want to make that make a bit more sense, because I'm saying that the answer is 2.6923 hours, and that's just not a very good way of saying your answer. So let's just multiply that by 60. Okay. Notice I didn't write the whole thing down. I didn't really need to. I'm just going to multiply that by 60. And again, I could, if I'm happy, I could write it as just is a fraction there. What do we got? We've got 161.538. So 161.538 minutes. Now, it's likely the question would probably say to you, like, to the nearest minute. So that to the nearest minute is 162 minutes. Okay, and there we go. Right, so you're going to have a go at a few questions. It's going to be a little bit more sort of straightforward questions that you're doing today, and then what we'll do is we'll just build this up slowly, so we can then try some more complex questions later. All right. Okay, so have a go at doing a few questions for us.